Her hands balled into fists, nails digging into her palms. You... She cut herself off, glancing back at her phone as another flood of notifications rolled in. She picked it up with shaking hands, her company's private group chat now filled with messages. HR manager. Effective immediately. Rachel is under review for conduct unbecoming of a senior executive. Meeting at noon. Colleague 1. Damn, Rachel. I had no idea you were like that. Colleague 2. Wait. Is it true you used the company card for hotel stays? Oh, you're done. Her breath hitched. Her job was on the line. Her reputation was dead. Her life was imploding right before her eyes, and there was nothing she could do to stop it. The final blow. And then the doorbell rang. She flinched. Who is that? I leaned back against the counter. Go check. She hesitated, then stumbled to the door, her hand shaking as she opened it. A man in a suit stood there, an envelope in hand. Rachel Carter? Her lips parted. Yes? He handed her the envelope. You've been served. She blinked, her fingers tightening around the documents. Served for what? But I already knew, because I had filed for divorce and full custody of our son. Her breath came in short, sharp gasps as she flipped through the papers, her eyes scanning the words that made it painfully, undeniably clear. She was about to lose everything. Her first mistake was underestimating me. She thought I was weak. She thought I was blind. She thought she could shatter my world and walk away unscathed. But what she didn't realize was that while she was busy scheming, I was already 10 steps ahead. Now, the only thing she had left was regret. She stood frozen in the doorway, her hands gripping the divorce papers as if they were the last thing, tethering her to reality. Her breath came in short, uneven gasps, her chest rising and falling in panic. I watched from across the room, leaning against the kitchen counter, my coffee still warm in my hand. I didn't say a word. I didn't need to. The weight of what was happening pressed down on her shoulders like an iron shroud. Daniel. Her voice was barely above a whisper. Well, we can talk about this, right? I raised an eyebrow. Talk? Now you want to talk? Her lips trembled. This isn't fair. I let out a low chuckle. Fair? I repeated the word slowly, letting it roll off my tongue like a foreign concept. You want to talk about fair, Rachel? After what you did? She opened her mouth, then closed it. There was nothing she could say, and then another knock. Louder, more urgent. Rachel jumped at the sound, her already pale face draining of what little color remained. She turned back to the door, hesitating, her hand shaking as she reached for the handle. She shouldn't have opened it, because the moment she did, her world came crashing down all over again. The other woman's wrath. The second. Rachel opened the door. She barely had time to register who was standing there before... Slap. The sound echoed through the house, sharp and unforgiving. Rachel stumbled back, a stunned gasp escaping her lips, as her cheek burned bright red. Standing in the doorway was a woman, not just any woman, the wife of her lover. Her eyes were wild, blazing with fury, her chest rising and falling with each ragged breath. She looked like she had barely slept, like she had spent the entire night piecing together the wreckage of her own marriage. And now, she had come looking for the person responsible. You ruined my life, the woman spat, her voice shaking with rage. You destroyed my family, you home-wrecking bull! Rachel was too stunned to respond. Her hand hovered over her stinging cheek, her eyes wide, darting to me as if I could somehow save her. I just sipped my coffee and watched. This was her consequence. You think you could just sleep with my husband and nothing would happen to you? The woman continued, stepping forward aggressively. You think you could sneak around like a snake and keep your own life intact? Rachel opened her mouth, desperate to speak. I didn't. But the woman wasn't done. She held up her phone, shoving the screen in Rachel's face. It was filled with messages between Rachel and her husband. Flirty texts, hotel bookings, explicit exchanges, and at the very bottom, one voice note. Rachel's voice, crystal clear. He's so stupid, he'll never find out. And even if he does, what's he going to do? Cry about it? Pathetic. The words hung, in the air like a bomb waiting to detonate. Rachel's knees nearly buckled. I didn't mean... The woman let out a bitter laugh. Oh, you meant every word, but guess what? Now you get to be the one crying. She turned to me then, her expression softening for just a moment. I'm sorry you had to find out like this, she said quietly. You didn't deserve this. I nodded, offering a small, polite smile. Neither did you. Rachel let out a strangled sob. Please, this doesn't have to... The woman shook her head, disgust flickering in her eyes. You're a joke, Rachel, and now the whole world knows. And with that, she turned on her heel and walked away. Rachel stood there, shaking, gasping for breath, utterly destroyed. The final nail in the coffin. She slammed the door shut, her hands gripping the divorce papers so tightly they crumpled in her fists. She turned to me, and for the first time in our entire relationship, I saw something in her eyes that had never been there before. Fear. Not the fear of getting caught, not the fear of embarrassment. Real fear. Fear of me. Fear of the unknown. Fear of what was coming next. I set my coffee cup down with a soft clink and exhaled slowly. So, I said, how does it feel? Her voice was hoarse. How does... what feel? I tilted my head, watching her, studying her. How does it feel, I repeated, to have everything taken from you? She let out a shaky breath. Daniel, please. I raised a hand, silencing her. This isn't just about what you did to me. I said, my voice eerily calm. This is about what you did to our son, to your family, to the people who trusted you. You didn't just cheat, Rachel. You shattered lives. Tears welled up in her eyes. You what? I asked, cutting her off. You didn't mean for this to happen? You never thought you'd get caught? You thought I was too blind, too stupid, to see what was right in front of me? She squeezed her eyes shut. I made a mistake. I let out a slow, mocking chuckle. A mistake? No, Rachel. A mistake is forgetting an anniversary. A mistake is burning dinner. What you did, that wasn't a mistake. That was a choice. She sobbed harder, and for the first time, I felt nothing. No sympathy. No sadness.